Don't just be another foreigner, be a local Laowai.
Welcome back to Local Laowai, the show that gives you everything you need to know for a smooth transition to life in China. I'm Donnie Newman. So, you've come to China and you want a property to call your own. But buying property here can be a minefield if you don't know what to look out for. But for many foreigners, being here for an extended period of time, buying property can be a way to cement your relationship with the Middle Kingdom. And that's why they say an Englishman's home is his castle.
What?
Castle?
You think we all live in castles in England?
Watch this episode of Local Laowai to be brought up to speed on buying property here in China. I'm here speaking now with Mr. Law, the manager here at HomeLink Realty. Mr. Law, thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, Dolly.
So, how do you know if you're getting a good deal when you're buying property?
One way to determine if you're getting a good deal on a property is by applying an internationally recognized ratio called the Housing Price to Earning Index. In Beijing, a resident would on average need to work 12 to 15 years to earn enough money to buy a house. However, this index also tells us that Beijing property prices are very stable when compared to other Chinese cities. Neighborhood is also important. Housing prices in Beijing's Big Four business areas have been increasing at a steady rate. It would be wise to consider buying property in one of these areas.
What part of the process of buying the property is different for a foreigner as opposed to a Chinese person?
Foreigners can buy property in China so long they have lived or worked in China for 1 or more years. Your passport will be examined to determine this. You'll need to take your document stating you have lived in China for over a year and your property purchasing license to the local housing authority in UR. To get your property purchasing license, you'll need to visit the local Public Security Bureau and go through the right procedures.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today. It pays to know what you're getting into before you take the plunge. So here are our Local Laowai pro tips for property buying in China. Number 1, the one property rule. In places like Beijing or Shanghai, you're only allowed to purchase one residential property as a foreigner. And you'll need to sign a commitment written in Chinese before you buy. Now, there are ways to get around this. You can own multiple properties legally if you're registered as a wholly owned foreign entity business, also known as WOF. However, your second property will be considered commercial property and taxed accordingly. Number 2, the 70-year rule. When you buy property in China, you only have it for 70 years. When you buy a house here, you're doing precisely just that, buying the bricks and the mortar. You don't own the land, the government does. You're just simply renting it from them.
Oh my God, I'll be 88 then.
Paul, you're not 18 years old. And now after 70 years, your lease on the land expires. Now theoretically, you can renew the lease, but this is particularly difficult for foreigners. Number 3, paperwork. Definitely have the right paperwork. You'll need to prove that you've lived in the city in which you want to buy for at least a year. To do this, you'll need 2 documents. The first one is the residence permit that accompanies your Z or X visa that you will need to have held for at least a year prior to buying. You'll also need to get a special license from the Public Security Bureau. This license states that you can buy property here in China. Simply make an appointment with your local PSB to get this done.
I'm no economist, but with the government wanting to control inflation, doesn't that mean interest rates might rise a few times?
Wow, Paul, that's absolutely correct. Remember, higher interest rates means higher mortgage repayments. So you're going to want to do your homework on local economy knowledge when you're deciding whether you want to buy. And last but not least, number 5, get local knowledge. As a foreigner, you may face higher prices than you should at first. Get the help of a Chinese friend you trust when comparing prices. Oh, and one more thing. If you buy a property with your Chinese spouse, keep in mind that it's legally theirs. So you want to think about your future relationship when you're deciding to buy a new home.
You know what, Donnie? I think it's going to be a while before I can afford to buy a property here. Do you think they'll give me an advance on my salary? Hey, Mr. Local Laowai producer, how you doing? Yeah. Listen, what are your thoughts on me getting an advance? How much? About a cool 1.5 million RMB. What's that you say? Work here for 15 years?
I'm Donnie Newman. We'll see you next time. You gonna sign up? Tune in next time when we talk about the location where you should buy your property. In the meantime, be sure to keep sending in your questions at locallaowai@bon.tv. I'm Donnie Newman, and we'll see you next time.